Over the past few weeks, our travels through Southern California had taken us to some remarkable places. With time for just one more day of exploration before beginning the long trip home, we were determined to end the trip on a high note, literally. Our plan was to climb up and over a mountain pass, which would take us to an elevation of nearly 9,000 feet. To get there, we would first need to make it through a rough and remote trail, one that would challenge our trucks. Then, a steep ascent would lead us straight to one of California's most infamous ghost towns. All this before descending down the other side of the mountain, where the most stunning views of any on our trip await. We made camp last night just outside the west end of Death Valley National Park. We're in BLM land, and we just found this nice little spot to kind of tuck in and call home for the night with some Joshua trees. You can see one behind me, and we're getting up into the mountains. We're kind of camped at the base of the Inyo Mountains, and our goal for the day is to climb up and over the Inyo Mountains and visit kind of a famous ghost town called Cerro Gordo, which I believe was the largest silver mine in California at one time. Something like 4,000 people lived up there. So we're excited to check that out and just get up into the mountains. I think we'll hit some shelf roads. Not quite sure what to expect with the trail because I think as of not that long ago, it was still snowed in. We're going to be climbing up to like 9,000 feet, which kind of blows my mind considering that just east of here in Death Valley, the elevation is below sea level. Just amazing how much it changes, how quickly it changes out here. So should be a fun day. This is the last day of our 2-week trip down here in Southern California, or at least the last day that we're going to be out on the trail. So we are determined to get the most out of today and have a blast. So I think everybody's pretty eager to get camp broke down, and so we're going to work on that and hit the trail.
We're on the Cerro Gordo trail, and we found ourselves in a rock garden where it's pretty slow going. It's kind of big gravelly rocks and some big boulders here and there. You see this rock here? Ear clear. This is what we're working with. You're coming up at the top. You're clear on both sides.
Well, just jumped out of the truck. It's like we got a little obstacle here, nothing too crazy, but a little squeeze through some rocks. You can see there, so shouldn't be a big deal. Just stay passenger side and might use a rock slider. Looks kind of fun. It's a fun little trail. Enjoying it so far.
as we're climbing in elevation, noticing there's a lot less Joshua trees and there's more pine trees. There's a pretty dense forest of pine trees here. And then looking further ahead, definitely look like there's less vegetation as we get higher up into the mountain. So it's just pretty cool to see how different things are as you climb in elevation.
Soon, the trail began one final steep ascent, and as it did, evidence of the area's mining past was suddenly all around us. Then, just as we crested the summit, the ghost town of Cerro Gordo came into view, and its story is one too good not to tell. Cerro Gordo's history as a mining town began in 1865, when Mexican prospectors arrived and began mining silver ore. What started as a small operation grew quickly, so quickly that by 1869 the Cerro Gordo mine was the largest producer of silver ore in the United States. The boom was on, and the population ballooned to a peak of 4,500 residents. In 1871, the American Hotel was built. This hotel, at the time, was considered to be the finest hotel west of the Mississippi, and it stood until 2020 when it burned down due to a suspected electrical fire. The isolated nature of Cerro Gordo attracted a rough crowd, and it became a town synonymous with lawlessness, with some accounts claiming the town averaged a murder a week. And like many other mining towns, the boom was short-lived. In 1877, a fire raged throughout the mines, destroying much of the infrastructure. Shortly after, the price of silver and lead plummeted, and by 1888, the town was mostly abandoned, with just a few dozen residents remaining. This was not to be the end of Cerro Gordo's story, however, because in 1911, significant amounts of zinc were found in the mines, leading to another boom, as Cerro Gordo became the largest producer of zinc in the country. At this time, aerial tramways were constructed to take the ore down the mountain, and this second boom lasted until the early 1930s, when the minerals dried up and the town was essentially abandoned. Then in 2018, the town was bought by Brent Underwood, who has a great YouTube channel called Ghost Town Living, chronicling his time spent here. We had the opportunity to meet and chat with Brent while we were here, and he was an incredibly gracious host. Although he does request that people don't film in the town, which of course we respected, and it's why you won't see footage of us walking around and exploring the town, which we did for over an hour. Wow, what a cool town that was. Brent was super nice and accommodating. The owner of Cerro Gordo gave us kind of the story and the history. And he said that there were 4,000 people here.
Which is wild to
at
think.
one point. Yeah, I don't know where you put 4,000 people here, but it's amazing. And they've got a great museum. He's done a really good job keeping this place preserved and building it back up. And what an amazing, amazing spot. So really enjoyed our time here, but now we need to work our way down the mountain. So that is what we're going to do next.
What a road this is, and what a great way to cap off our trip, or at least our time on trails. The descent from Cerro Gordo is amazing. We're still in it. Now we're in this canyon, which I was totally not expecting, but it's beautiful. But up above, the views that you get of the mountains and the dry lake bed, I guess it is, oh man, it's just amazing. And I really kind of wish we had camped up there. There was a camp spot we passed that would have been amazing if it hadn't been windy. And we've been looking for camp. But anyway, this trail has not disappointed. It has far exceeded my expectations. I'm loving every second of it.
All right, so we made it to the end of the trail and we're about to hit pavement. So everyone's gonna air up their trucks, and this ultimately marks the end of our trip. We have gotten to see so many awesome parts of the desert in Southern California. I'd never been to Joshua Tree, doing Old Dale Road, Pinkham Canyon, Purdue Canyon. That was awesome. And then going down to Anza-Borrego. Anza-Borrego was, I think, my favorite. Definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone, but it was a ton of fun. And then getting into Death Valley National Park and seeing parts of Death Valley that we had never seen before was awesome. To go from maybe below sea level all the way up to 8,000 feet was amazing. Visiting Tea Kettle Junction and Racetrack Playa, those were just awesome highlights to Death Valley National Park. Once all the trucks are aired up, we're gonna head into town and we're gonna have one final meal together before we're all gonna end up leaving and going our separate ways and getting back to reality. I'm super glad that we did this trip. So much fun. Can't wait for the next adventure.